Good morning, Andrea Palgett here with Coldwell Banker Vanguard. We have Trey Sinclair with Wells Insurance. We're just going to touch on a few things about how to keep your most valued possession safe through natural disasters and other things. So Trey's insurance company has been established for quite some time. How long have you guys been here?
So we were established in 1940, and this year is our 80th anniversary.
Are you a native from Florida?
I am. Born and raised McClenny, Florida, McClenny proud. So it's west of Jacksonville, if anybody's unfamiliar with that little small town.
And do you do a lot of business in the Jacksonville, St. John, St. Augustine area?
We do now. It used to be a very small Main Street type shop, but more and more help, especially because of the internet, we're branching out to more of the North Florida region.
Oh, well, that's exciting.
Yeah.
So you took over from your father?
Yeah, my dad was the principal agent since 1983, and then I took over in 2018.
Well, congratulations. Yeah. So one of the things I wanted to touch on today is our natural disasters, because we have a lot of people that move here from out of town, and of course hurricanes are a pretty scary thing for people that aren't familiar and haven't grown up in the South, such as us. So as far as hurricane coverage, like, are there different coverages for hurricanes, or how can people feel safe and protected when moving to Florida?
So hurricanes are covered just like wind is covered, and there's really no difference on the policy between hurricane and wind coverage. It's something that unfortunately happens from time to time. The state of Florida has done a really good job in increasing our building codes. So newer homes are able to withstand hurricane force winds a lot better than some of the older homes. You'll notice that the shape of roofs is a lot different in newer built homes than in traditional gable style roofs, for instance. The nail patterns are much more sturdy than they once were, and the deck is secured to the home a lot better. So I think the building code differences have made a huge difference in being able to withstand hurricanes. But that being said, when a hurricane does occur, the policy responds to a hurricane just like it would any type of wind damage. And of course, that's common not just in Florida, but in all 50 states.
But flood is not covered under hurricane. So like if you have water intrusion, it's not covered?
So a standard homeowner's insurance policy is going to exclude flood coverage. And flood can be purchased as a separate policy, or some companies actually offer it by endorsement. You can just sign up for it and they'll cover it just like they cover fire or lightning. Yeah, and it's not many companies offer it, but if you can get it as an endorsement, a lot of times you can save hundreds, sometimes thousands of dollars going that route. So it's a really great opportunity to offer your clients.
Because I know just in my position, flood insurance is pretty inexpensive when you're not mapped in a flood zone, but I know they just did some remapping here recently, and a lot of people that were previously not in a flood zone have ended up in a flood zone and had to get flood insurance. Yeah. So I just kind of tell people, obviously it's their own choice, but it's not a bad thing to have.
Yeah, again, you could do flood by endorsement, which is very inexpensive.
Which is news to me. That's exciting.
Well, it is. And then, everybody is actually in a flood zone. A lot of people don't realize that, but you're either in a preferred zone or you're in a standard zone, and there's different types of zones within those two categories. So keep in mind that even if you're in a preferred zone, those are the zones that the lender typically doesn't require flood insurance.
The X.
25% of all flood losses happen in those zones. So it does make sense to buy it even when the bank doesn't require you to buy it. So
I actually had some water intrusion and I was not in a flood zone. So I mean, I can stand behind that. So as far as let's talk about waterfront properties, for example. So if you have a home that's on the ocean versus a home that's on the river, so to speak, are there differences in coverages there, or is it just a premium difference?
So typically not. A coastal property should have the same coverages that a riverfront property has. Every company has their own, special recipe for their policy language. So there are going to be differences between companies, but normally not coastal versus riverfront property. What may be different is a coastal property may have fewer companies that will write that type of risk. So you need to work with somebody that understands that market a little bit better and has access to those types of companies that prefer coastal properties. Riverfront properties, usually it's wide open. So somebody that has a riverfront property, the premiums tend to be more competitive than if somebody is staring out at the beach from their front porch. So,
Do you see in your experience where here like Jacksonville, Ponte Vedra, St. Augustine have different treatment from carriers as opposed to like South Florida?
Definitely. And it's not just South Florida anymore either. It's the Orlando area is treated a lot differently now than it was even 1 year ago. The Tri-County area in South Florida, around Miami, Fort Lauderdale, those areas are treated much differently than the rest of the state. It really depends. We're extremely fortunate being in North Florida. We have had an excellent history with large loss events. Our carriers tend to be a little bit more aggressive on how close they're willing to go to the coast, so you tend to have more options. And I feel very fortunate that we're in this area. Our premiums tend to be lower in this area than the rest of the state.
Yeah, I like to tell people we're kind of lucky we're in that little indention, so it just kind of like goes right past us. We get kind of like the outskirts of the wind, but not so much like a direct hit. So if you have two pieces of property, say one has a higher land value than the other, and then they build their improvement. So for example, like you have one piece of land that's $1.5 million. They build a $3.5 million home, so now you have a $5 million property. And then over here you have a $500,000 piece of land and they build $4.5 million structure. So now you have two $5 million properties. How does that coverage difference if like the differences in the land?
That's a good question. So when you're insuring a property, you're insuring the replacement cost of the building. You're not insuring the land. So insurance companies don't care what your property is worth. They really don't. They don't cover the ground. They may give you a little coverage for a tree shrub, something like that. But they're not concerned with how marketable your land is. They're concerned with what is it going to take financially for them to put you back where you were prior to a loss. So in that frame of mind, you really need to understand building costs, local ordinances, things like that. All of those things come into play when you're rebuilding a home. And, our agency has helped people recover financially from total losses. And, it's hard from the client's perspective to understand how much money it really is going to take to put them back whole. So again, work with somebody that understands the true cost of getting you back to where you were pre-loss.
Do those policies ever need to be re-reviewed, like on an annual basis, or as depreciation occurs or appreciation occurs or whatever, what have you? Like if someone adds a structure, sorry to interrupt. So if someone adds a structure onto their home, do they need to call their insurance agent and say, hey, I just added a screen room. Is that going to change my replacement cost coverage?
It does. Well, to answer the question about review, it's very important to review, especially in Florida. We're not like other states where things have remained the same for decades. Florida changes almost monthly. There's always something that's changing, and particularly the properties that are higher net worth clients, properties closer to the coast, properties in a flood zone that may be remapped. Those those people need to have their insurance agent's phone number saved in their phone and make sure that when these changes occur that they're updating their policy. And to the question about the pool structure, so that's considered an other structure. May not even change the replacement cost, but they may need to tweak something else about their policy, and they could have more contents coverage that is needed because they're basically adding furniture and more contents to another structure. They could have an in-law that's moving into that pool house or something like that. I mean, there could be all these different scenarios, and so it's best just to check. I mean, no one likes to talk about insurance. I understand that, but it's better be on the safe side, and put that to your agent to guide you through what needs to happen.
Okay. Well, I appreciate your time today. Trey Sinclair with Wells Insurance. I'm Andrea Palgoat with Coldwell Banker Vanguard. And if you want to learn more about Trey, his contact information is below.